All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of PDSVISION Webinar Wednesday. This week's webinar is going to be part of the Digital Thread series of webinars. These have been going on for several months, and they follow a theme of the digital thread, which I will be explaining in just a minute. Now, this specific digital thread webinar is going to cover technical publications and how we can incorporate those technical publications in with the rest of our company and the rest of our teams, like our engineering team. So as far as the agenda for this webinar, I'm going to start with a little introduction before introducing the digital thread concepts. I'm then going to jump into talking about technical publications. So we're going to talk about how those are created using Creo Illustrate, ArborText IsoDraw, and ArborText Editor. We're going to talk about what each of those are. And lastly, I'm going to do a demonstration that shows how your illustrations and your ArborText documents can be incorporated into the digital thread and connected to our CAD documents and the rest of the documents that we'll be using for this entire project. So a little bit about myself. My name is Sevi. I've been working with PDSVISION for 4 years, and I've been working in the CAD world for about 11 years from a mechanical engineering background. PDSVISION is a global leader in PTC resellers and service providers. We offer services such as consulting, implementation, training, cloud hosting, Windchill remote admin, help desk, etc. Just a little explanation of the timeline here. We were formerly Boundary Systems. We changed our name at the first of the year to PDSVISION officially. We still have the same great team. We now just have a global network as well. Besides PTC products, we also work with some other products like Moldex 3D, Keyshot, and eTraj. All right, so getting right into digital thread. The idea behind digital thread is that there are a lot of different parts of your company that are going to be working on different parts of the same projects. PTC has a lot of ways that we can tie these different departments together by linking our files using the same files. This is going to have a whole bunch of benefits. Mainly, this is going to allow our teams to work in a more integrated way, more efficiently, and it's going to avoid a lot of errors and mistakes and repetitive type actions that we have to go through to make sure that we don't run into problems when everybody is using different files. So this way of doing things by connecting our company is going to make everybody's life a little bit easier, and it's going to avoid a whole bunch of potential errors. Now, in this webinar, we're going to be talking about the CAD side of things. So in this digital thread image we have here, the middle top bubble representing CAD. And this is also going to deal with technical publications, so one bubble over to the right. This webinar is mostly about integrating those two different departments, connecting these different types of files. So for this entire digital thread webinar series, we're following the example of this automobile that we see on my screen here. We're explaining how different parts of the company, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is PLM, or whether it is technical publications, as we're talking about today, we're looking at how this same project is going to be connected across all of these different departments. So what are technical publications? These are notably going to be created by technical writers. These are not going to be created by the same team that actually creates the CAD model, the engineering team. We can see some examples on my screen of some technical publications here. If you don't know exactly what these are, think research papers, think design manuals, think instruction booklets like you might get at IKEA. These are all examples of technical publications. Technical publications are going to use illustrations or figures. These are graphical representations of the CAD model from Creo, and they're going to be incorporated into our publication documents. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this. What we're going to be showing today is the way of doing this that enables this connectivity that I'm referring to, so that when we do make changes to the CAD model, those changes are going to propagate to these images, and they're then going to propagate to the technical publication as well, connecting all of these different types of documents. These illustrations can be created using two different PTC programs, Creo Illustrates and ArborText IsoDraw. Both can be used to create these illustrations. In this demonstration, I'm going to be showing the use of Creo Illustrates. It's the newer of the two programs. They both have their pros and cons. They're both going to allow you to create these illustrations, including figures and callouts. Creo Illustrate also has the functionality of creating animations, which we'll see in just a few minutes. And we can see some examples of these illustrations again on the screen. These illustrations are going to be built into our tech pubs or our technical publications. In this demonstration, I'm going to be talking about PTC's XML tool. XML is a language similar to HTML, which you might know is used to create web pages. XML is often used to create these technical publications. ArborText Editor is a tool that allows us to easily write in XML. It is a tool that is going to make that much easier by offering a whole lot of features. We can see an example of the interface of ArborText on the screen there. You'll notice we have what resembles a model tree on the left, includes all the different elements in our XML document. And on the right, we can see what that document is roughly going to look like. These documents can be published into multiple different formats, including a web page, HTML, including PDF, and a large variety of other formats. All right, so I'm going to show what this looks like in the real world here by opening up the model in Creo and going through each of those steps. And the main thing to note here is that these documents are going to be connected, so that as the engineers make changes to these documents, those changes are going to propagate through the entire chain through this digital thread type implementation. So here I am in Creo Parametric, and we can see that we have the automobile assembly that we have been working with. Now, this can be loaded directly into Creo Illustrate. So I've now jumped over to Creo Illustrate. I've already attached the assembly file to this illustration file here. And Creo Illustrate gives us the ability to create illustrations or figures in 3D. So I'm just going to show you some of the options we have here to customize these illustrations very briefly. We can change our orientation or our camera angle. We can add callouts, so adding these callout item numbers in 3D. We can also transform certain assembly components. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this tire here, and I have the ability to very quickly transform or move this out of the way. I can also select certain parts of this and choose to hide them. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this car body. There we go. And we'll notice it's really easy to just isolate selected parts of this, grab the components that we're interested in, and get rid of the ones that we are not interested in. All right, additionally, we have access to multiple different render modes. So right now this is displaying as a shaded illustration, but I can just as easily display this as a shaded model. There we go. Along with many other types of renderings that we have available to us. Lastly, I have the ability to create animations. So I created a short 8-second animation here that I'm just going to play through. We'll notice that I can hide components. I can zoom in on certain features. I can make certain elements fly off the screen. I can make others flash to point attention to them. And it's very easy to use. This is these kind of illustrations are really easy to create. Once I create these figures, I can easily swap between them, as we can see here, showing all different views of this same car, including different components, different labeling, different coloring, etc. Here we see just the frame without the body. And returning to figure 1. We can also enable what's called perspective view, which is going to make these a little bit more photorealistic, not to scale, but more realistic to how this would look to the naked eye. So once these illustrations are created, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Arbor Text Editor. And these illustrations can be integrated directly into Arbor Text. So if I just scroll down a little bit, we'll notice I have some 2D images here. So this 2D illustration was created in Illustrate, just placed right inside of this document. But beyond that, we actually have the ability to load a 3D version of this directly into PTC Arbor Text. This model is fully 3D. I'm able to rotate it. And beyond that, the figures I created are actually attached to this PVZ file that I brought in. So we'll notice I can display figure 1, figure 2, and even figure 3, which was my animation. I can actually go ahead and play that directly into Arbor Text. We'll see that works just fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and do file print preview. And this is going to be a preview of what this document will look like when I publish it. So I'll go ahead and go through these pages, but we'll see that these images are flawlessly going to be published depending on how I configure them, where I put them in my documents. We can place multiple views here, no problem. Illustrations with callouts, etc. Now, the last thing I want to show is how these documents are all linked together and the benefits of doing that. So to illustrate that chain or that digital thread, I'm going to start by jumping back to Creo Parametric. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to suppress the car body. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do a file save. Now I'm going to jump back to Creo Illustrate here. And I'm just going to reopen the same illustration. And when I do that, it's going to notify me that the following files have changed, specifically that assembly, that change I just made. And it's allowing me to update those items here in the illustration. So anytime a change is made in Creo, that connection between Creo and Illustrate is going to be maintained. And next time the file is opened in Illustrate, those changes are going to be carried over. So we notice I just display this car now and the body is no longer showing up. So I'm going to go ahead and just undo that change. And then I'll show the Illustrate Arbor Text link and how that works. All right, so the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new figure to this PVZ here. So this figure can be whatever we want that we want to include in our Arbor Text document. So I'll go ahead and just hide the body again. I'll transform these tires out here, maybe create some explode lines. And I'll go ahead and save this figure view. Now all I have to do is I'm just going to republish this file as PVZ. I'll just save over the previous. And once again, what's going to happen, as we'll see in a second, when I jump into Arbor Text, the next time I open that Arbor Text document, this is automatically going to be propagated into Arbor Text. So I'll go ahead and just open this document again. Oh, I'll close it and open it again. And we'll notice my new figure is included right here in the Arbor Text. No additional action required. The last thing I didn't talk about, when we do publish this, so when I do a print preview to a 2D format, of course, this image is going to be converted to 2D. It's not going to retain that intelligent graphics type characteristics. But if we publish this to other formats like a web format, then that would still be able to be used right on the published page. All right. So I'm going to jump back to my slideshow here, and I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions about the digital thread in general, so the connections that you want to create in your company, or how that applies to this specific example of technical publications by connecting your Creo assemblies, your Creo Illustrates files, and your technical publications. So any of that is fair game. I'll give you all a few minutes to submit your question. So I got some questions here. First, do you need both Creo Illustrate and Arbor Text ISODraw for parts, books, and manuals? I would say definitely not. I'd say ISODraw and Creo Illustrate, they both kind of fill that niche of creating illustrations. So you can really get by with one or the other, either Creo Illustrate or IsoDraw. You can create those illustrations and put them into your publications. Next question, can this export to Microsoft Word? So jumping over to ArborText, essentially you'd be using this usually instead of Word. Some people do create technical publications in Microsoft Word. That's where a lot of people start. Generally, people find that these XML tools, the more customization you want as you start making a lot of documents, it just gets easier to use XML instead of Word. Now, if you can export to a Word document, I'm going to say I don't think so. I don't think there's any support for that. That is something I can look into for you, but just kind of wanted to explain that wouldn't, exactly be a normal workflow. Usually you'd use this instead of Microsoft Word and then publish to PDF or something similar. Next we have, would work instructions for the shop be created in a similar way? Definitely could be. This is definitely a way that you could create, work instructions. I think that ArborText would be very useful if you do this often. You want to standardize how those instructions are made. Anytime you want to do that in a way that Microsoft Word wouldn't give you the functionality you're looking for, it could be a good idea to bring this in. Yes. Next we have, are the figures you create for the dropdown in your doc updated if the model is updated? I'm assuming they're separate. So the answer is yes, they're going to be updated in Illustrate. So let's say I make a change here in parametric. Next time I open my Illustrate documents, that's automatically going to be updated. So we saw that, I made a change, I suppressed the body, and that is going to update. Now, as far as whether that's going to update inside of our ArborText document, we do actually have to do a new publish for that to take effect. So in Illustrate, if we want those changes to carry over to ArborText, we would have to redo that file publish and publish a new version of this file as a PVZ. So the connection's all there. It's going to happen completely automatically with changes to Creo into Illustrate. And as far as updating those changes or pushing them to ArborText, you just have to do a file publish. Let's see. What other attributes can be linked and pulled through in this way? For example, if a part carries material information, that would be needed in the tech pub. Could that be pulled as a data field to the associated text? Now, so you could definitely do that through Illustrate. So you could, that data is available to us here in Illustrate. As far as there's a good way to go from, directly from Creo parametric into ArborText to display that as kind of parametric information, I'm not entirely sure. This is definitely also something that I can look into for you. See if I can figure out, what the capabilities are with, for example, taking parameters from the, the Creo assembly and putting those as text in ArborText. Honestly, not sure if we can do that or what the capabilities are, but that's something I can look into for you. Can a manual be generated based on the machine configuration? What are the options and variants for creating these manuals? So yes, so essentially this print preview that I just did right here, this was created by a style sheet that is pretty much the default style sheet. I made a few edits to it, but yes. So these style sheets, so essentially how we go from this that we see here, this text, and how that is styled to look like this publication that we see here. Yeah, so that's all completely able to be configured. That's going to be done through ArborText Styler. So this right here is ArborText Editor, it's called. That's where we actually add our text. ArborText Styler is a separate thing that lets us configure how this is actually going to be published. So yeah, short answer, this is completely customizable, how we go from this to this. You're just going to have to configure it and make the edits through ArborText Styler. All right, so another question, to expand on the first question, in order to use assembly files in IsoDraw, they have to be IGES and then converted into a line drawing. Otherwise, I believe you have to create the illustrations by hand. So Keith is saying for IsoDraw, we would have to go to IGES. Creo Illustrate definitely can load right in as an assembly. And the question here is, can a PVZ file be imported into IsoDraw and treated as a line drawing like Illustrate does? So can we go PVZ into IsoDraw? Not sure about that either. I actually have not worked with IsoDraw. It's a competitor to Illustrate. I've done quite a bit in Illustrate, but I'm not an IsoDraw expert, so I'm not able to speak to the types of files that are supported there. I can definitely look into that for you again. Should be very easy to find, list of supported files for IsoDraw, and I'll get that to you as soon as I can. Looks like we got 2 more questions. Can ArborText be used online for online shopping with add to cart functionality? Yes, I think so. I've never done that personally, but there should be no problem setting that up if you are very experienced with XML configuration, loading that into web pages. It's I imagine this wouldn't this is not supported, or I guess this is not easy to set up just right through the ArborText window. I imagine this would require some web coding or web page design experience. But yeah, essentially you can create web pages through this. You could probably get that incorporated and get that working. Lastly, we got, does ArborText tie into PTC's options and variants? I'm not sure exactly what that question is referring to. I'm not sure if that's a Windchill type question. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean on that as far as options and variants. Windchill question, gotcha. So that's something I can look into as far as Windchill integration. I know that ArborText in terms of the PVZ files loading into Illustrate and how Illustrate is going to connect to that, that definitely ties in with Windchill. So if you use Windchill, all that connectivity is going to be there. The PVZ that ArborText is grabbing is going to be automatically updating if you publish a new version. So that connectivity is there in terms of everything I showed in this webinar. By linking those files together, that's all compatible with Windchill. As far as the options and variants, I'm not a Windchill expert, so I'm not really able to speak to if ArborText ties into that. I'm not really sure. But I could definitely look into that once again, talk to a Windchill expert, figure out what the integration is like there. All right, I think that is everything. Some of you have questions that I will reach out to you all via email. I have your all's emails. So expect an email from me within the next couple of days if you had an outstanding question. Feel free to contact me as well if you have any additional technical questions here. My email can be found right here on the screen, sbeaver@pdsvision.us. For sales questions, sales@pdsvision.us, and feel free to visit our YouTube page, PDSVISION on YouTube. There's a lot of good stuff there, including the previous digital thread webinars from the last several months. And this webinar will be up on YouTube within a couple days as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending this week's edition of PDSVISION Webinar Wednesday. We hope to see you all next week. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great afternoon.